Hey everyone, it's Javon again with another video short. Today I want to talk to you about suffering. I want to talk to you about one of many of our favorite passages from Romans chapter 8 and verse 28. If you're watching this and you've never heard of this passage, maybe you've heard someone say this passage in a way that might sound familiar to you now. It's this one, Romans 8:28. God's word says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." So this passage is used, and even used right now in the middle of this global pandemic, sheltering in place, in a time where people are getting sick and many people are dying. In a time where people have lost jobs and have lost income and opportunities. In a time where there's a lot of fear and insecurity and we don't know what's happening next, someone might turn to this passage and give it to you as a tool for comfort. And I think that this passage can be used in that way. But I think also that this passage may be used primarily in a way that says that whenever bad things happen and whenever people suffer, that there is one thing to learn from it. That God is creating this global pandemic so that you might learn something from it. Now, it sounds really good. It does. But I don't think it portrays God in the best of light. Couldn't God have allowed you to learn that one thing without thousands of people dying and many more getting sick? I think he can. And I do not believe that that is why suffering exists. We all suffer. But I believe that one of the points of suffering is for us to understand how good things can be when we're not. That's not necessarily one thing to learn, but it is something that allows the light to shine in the middle of darkness. Whenever we suffer, okay, we think that there's two things that happen in suffering. What we do is we moralize it. So that happens in John chapter 9 whenever Jesus has brought a man who's born blind, and religious leaders say, who sinned, this man or his parents, as to why he was born blind. So we moralize suffering in the sense that we must have done something wrong in order for this bad thing to happen to us. Your family must have done something wrong. You must have done something wrong. Our nation, the world did something wrong in order for this suffering to be brought upon us. So we moralize it. And then we moralize it in such a way where we then determine that, well, there must be something that I must learn from this, some principle that I gain from this, so that I can become a better human being. That the point of suffering is so that I can be a better person. Okay, so we moralize it. Maybe you've done this before. Maybe somebody has done this on your behalf as well, done it to you. And then we also minimalize it too. That's happening right now. People are minimalizing COVID-19. You've probably seen it on your social timeline. Many people, before it has increased in its infection, in its scale, in the infection rate and death rate, people were dismissing it. They were minimalizing it. They were saying that we haven't taken these measures because more people die from the flu during flu season. Many more people are infected. So why aren't we as concerned about the normal standard influenza as we're concerned about this? We minimalize it with death rates and responses to other pandemics that this world has faced. We may even minimalize it in terms of people who die in car accidents or people who die in gun-related deaths or something like that. We minimize it. And so you may have participated in this, or you've seen somebody do it before. And it's a bit frustrating because sometimes what people are trying to do is offer some perspective but actually it doesn't help in this sense. If you have lost a loved one, someone may try to minimize the loss of your loved one by saying, well, at least it wasn't this person, or you get the idea. So we moralize things and then we minimalize things. And what we're doing is we are asking questions of like, how is this possible? Or how am I to learn from this? And then why? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening in the world? And so we speculate, and that's why we're so prone to conspiracy theories. That's why we're so prone in speculation, that we're asking kind of the wrong questions. The how and the why questions, even though they're natural questions to ask, I want us to ask a different question. And it's so important to me that I wrote it down. I want us to think about this in the middle of this pandemic and suffering, and in relation to Romans 8:28. That when we suffer, what really offers us help is not questions about how or why, but the who. So in suffering, it's who we turn to, not the how and trying to find some specific meaning behind it, or the why as to trying to discover what caused it, that leads to grand speculations, but the who. Not necessarily that it's God who caused it, but who do we run to for comfort and strength and hope? That the emphasis in Romans 8:28 is the God who works the good out for those who love him. God who works the good out for those who love him. That God is working. And so one of the common things that we might be thinking about is, where is God in all of this? If we're talking about the who, where is God in all of the suffering? Well, God is with you. That God suffers with us. Where's God? God's suffering with us. Even to the point that God dies. This is the story of the cross. This is the story of salvation and the hope for all humanity, is the God who suffers. Jesus suffered and died. How far will God go with you in suffering? He goes all the way to the grave with you in your suffering. Where is God? He's with you. Whenever we use Romans 8:28 as some kind of religious platitude or cliche, then what it may amount to is that God's working out the good, so God may be only on the other side of the suffering. But I would love for us to see this passage in the context of the whole book and this chapter, in recognizing that God's not waiting for you on the other side of the suffering. God's not waiting on the other side of this pandemic. God is in the middle of it. God meets us in the middle of our suffering, not on the other side. God is with you.